In this quick tutorial, we will show you how to use Core Melt Track X to stabilize and lock down a shaky handheld shot by tracking an object moving through the scene. The source clip we are using here is 4K, which we will be editing into a 1080p project timeline, which gives plenty of flexibility for cropping and scaling for the most effective framing. Create a 1080p timeline with the same frame rate as your source footage, in this case 2997. From the effects panel, add C2 Track X, Track and Lockdown. In the plugin inspector panel, make sure output is set to source, lockdown to both, X and Y crop to 00. If the output is set to lockdown during tracking, you're going to see some very strange results. Scrub through the timeline and find a good point to start your track. Generally, this is when your object is largest in frame and in a fairly neutral position. It is also very important to make sure that you start the track in a section that is mostly smooth movement for at least a half a second or so before and after. Now, draw a simple shape to include specific shape detail and contrast. Avoid areas that cross over other complex parts of the scene. Track forwards. And go back to your starting point and track backwards. Now let's check the track. Set the output to lockdown and then play through the clip several times to make sure everything is smooth. If there are any major jumps, sometimes choosing a different section in the timeline and or choosing a new shape that selects a more specific area of the subject might be the fix. Let's set clip scale to 200% right now just to make it easy. We can go up to 200% with no real loss of quality in the 1080p timeline. Now scrub through the timeline and check for any areas where the background shows through or the framing feels a bit strange. In this case, I was able to make it work with just the clip scale parameter and a bit of X offset. If necessary, you can create keyframes with the clip scale and the X and Y offsets. Try to do this with the minimum number of keyframes to keep the movement smooth and even. You can usually make it work with 2 keyframes. In more extreme situations, you might need a couple more keyframes somewhere along the timeline. The Track X, Track and Lockdown effect can be used for other creative solutions as well. The Lockdown Jogger effect, made famous by a series of Beats headphone commercials, is a fun one to play with creatively. On a practical level, repositioning an on-camera presenter is also possible, as seen here, so their notes can be presented on one side of the frame even if they move back and forth. Download the free trial of Track X today and try it out on your own footage.